It was a unexpected phone call that introduced me to Lauren Harmison. "2007 was a big year for me. It was my senior year. I was finally deciding where I was going to go in my future. I had a great group of friends that I could count on for anything. I worked my butt off to save up for spring break in Texas. On the third day after a 2-day road trip that took 3 days, we went to the beach. We're ready to jump and ride the waves, kind of jump and play, but little did I know that there was a sandbar, and that sandbar crushed my C5 vertebrae, and for what felt like an eternity, I was looking up at the surface of the water, drowning. And luckily my friends knew that I was a good swimmer and that didn't look like good swimming. And a couple of my friends pulled me out, and 4 weeks later I woke up in the Shepherd Center in Atlanta.
I read about his story in the newspaper in our city, and other people that I knew had asked for prayer for him at different churches. His name was all over the town for a few months.
There was news coverage in the paper and on television about me, and I guess I was well liked. I thought I was pretty mediocre, but luckily Lauren just happened to pick up the paper at Fort Wayne.
Somehow I knew that I was just supposed to call and help him. I was starting nursing school. I was studying anatomy and physiology every day. And I still vividly remember just sitting at my desk, working on my schoolwork, and thinking I was supposed to call him.
I avoided my phone a lot, but one day I decided to answer the phone by going, because that's the only way I could answer the phone. They had straws, and the only way I could move is by blowing on that straw. So I blew on my straw, and she introduced herself. She explained that she had read my story, and
I asked about ways that I could help him and his family. So he connected me with his aunts, and I ended up doing so many things for him. Everything from getting the paperwork from Medicaid, which I never called the Medicaid office before, to figuring out how the bus system works and how to get an adapted bus to go to his house. And I helped get registration papers done for school.
But she did a lot more. She sent care packages that I didn't realize I was looking forward to them, but everyone looks forward to getting mail, especially when you're 12 hours away from home.
A lot of people that have disabilities, especially if they've had an accident or something that radically changes their life, end up losing their friends, or at least feeling like they lose their friends, just because a lot of people have friendships that aren't necessarily genuine. But then when you have a disability, kind of all those people can disappear.
Not a lot of people knew how hard my mom worked to give me the life I had, and how hard I had to work to be where I was. I worked so hard, and it all was taken away so quick. I was finally happy with what I saw in the mirror, and it took a lot of work. It took a lot of time. My mom always reminded me that it was still me. I didn't want to hear it from her. I didn't want to hear it from anybody. The dwindling group of friends I had really helped get me out of a dark place. It took a long time. Lauren really kind of set me on a path back to where I should have been.
A couple of his friends and I gathered up a bunch of his ribbons from swimming and bodybuilding and put them into a big frame so he could look at them when he got home.
Lauren stepped in and she really helped my aunts, and they were able to really help my mom. It's taken a long time, but it's work in progress.
All my family thought it was crazy because I was so excited for this guy to come home that I'd never met before, that I'd been spending months working on getting stuff prepared to meet him.
There's a lot of times Lauren came by herself. Lauren and my friend Natalie came to visit me, and my main goal was I'm gonna hide in here until they go away.
And going to see him was honestly really hard, but I knew somehow that I was supposed to spend time with him. So I would just show up at his house and make him get out of bed so we could talk that day. Our relationship initially was much more just me helping him out. And as time went on, it became much more about us being friends and about the relationship being back and forth, and so much less about just being a one-way friendship. I think one of the biggest things that was cool to see over time is how our friendship changed over time, and how our friendship went from me just going and showing up at his house to it definitely being a two-way friendship. He comes with my family to the zoo and comes over for dinner and plays games with my daughter. So it's cool to see how times change and how things progress. I volunteered at a camp in Missouri for adults that had disabilities. And I loved that camp, and I wanted to take Dustin with me, but the camp was just not right for someone that had such high cognitive function. Dustin was my peer, and even though his body didn't always work the way he wanted it to, cognitively we were always on the same level. So I really wanted to have a camp for people like him, and that is the reason that I started Camp PossAbility. I did a lot of fundraising. I started asking everybody that I knew to donate. Eventually in 2014, we became a 501c, and in 2015, we actually had our first week of camp. It makes me really happy to see him challenge himself when he's at camp.
I get to meet a lot of great people and do a lot of fun things that remind me that I wasn't just an athlete in high school, a lifeguard that worked all the time, guy that worked at Outback. I'm not limited to what I was or what I thought I was.
Camp is a big deal for a lot of people. Dustin's been afraid of the water ever since he had his accident. And today he went in a canoe.
So I drowned when I got hurt. I was literally accepted the fact that I was gonna die staring up at the water. But today I got in a canoe.
Several of our volunteers have come to camp. They may be at a camper that needed everything done for their care, and at the end of the day, they still said, I was the one that was helped this week, not my camper. I came for them, but really they just helped me. So we hope at camp that people will see past disabilities and see people for who they are. Just like with Dustin, I don't think about his chair or what adaptations he needs unless it's just so that we can hang out together. So I hope that camp helps more people see that.
When I'm here, it's just a reminder that I'm not who I thought I was. Doesn't matter if I can stand, doesn't matter if I can bench 280. Yes, I could. Okay, 250. Around 2011, I had met someone new that reminded me that school's always an option, and Lauren was there reminding me that I can still learn, I can still teach, and I still have something to offer. So a 4-year degree, and 5 years later, I graduated, I actually graduated with honors, and I got my secondary education degree, and I'm fortunate enough to have a teaching license to teach English for 5th to 12th graders, and right now I'm a long-term sub and I get to teach. It's one of the highlights of my life, and it took a long time to get there, but I got there, and I wouldn't have been there if I wouldn't have realized negative is easy, but positive is harder but more worth it.